For all of us who are joining in, you're most welcome. Feel free to comment on chat where you're joining us from. Thank you, Vincent, all the way from Mombasa, that's the coast region in Kenya. I'm seeing we have Anthony. Thank you very much for joining us today. Anthony Montuganga, Enoch Evans, Teresia from Roiro. Thank you for joining. John from Kakamega. I'm glad to have you, John. Thank you. Millicent Kinoti, most welcome. Rebecca. A shout out to Sylvester. Valerie, Vincent, most welcome to you all. Fatma, thank you for making time to join us today. Awesome. So it's already 5 minutes into our time. We're going to start it off, and I want to welcome all of you to today's webinar. I'm joined by a great friend of mine, Lewis, and a person who is very good at what he does. And Lewis, I want to welcome you as we are starting our session. And this is our 4th webinar that we've had this year. We've been having monthly cybersecurity webinars to help everyone who is entering the space in your career journey, and also those of us who are seasoned professionals in the space to get to appreciate how to better your skills. We have done a bit of a twist in today's webinar, in that we have decided to build on our soft skills. And what that means is for us to appreciate those of us who are already in the tech space, not necessarily specific into cybersecurity, but whether you are into cybersecurity, you're into software development, you are into a networking space, but any career in space, our focus of today is to look at how can we become good at what we are doing. So with me is Lewis Munene. Lewis Munene is the technical lead, quality assurance at kiosks. And we are glad to have you, Lewis. So I want to welcome Lewis. If you can turn on your video and get to introduce yourself. But for all of us who are joining in again, you're most welcome. We are delighted to have you all joining today. We are looking forward to learning and sharpening our skills. As we have done in the previous sessions, our focus has been on learning and sharpening our technical skills. But on today's session, we have decided to also build up on our soft skills as well, and get to learn from professionals who are doing very well in what they're doing. And our focus today is on the software development side of things, and with a keen interest on quality assurance, which is what Lewis does. So Lewis, most welcome. I'd like you to just give us an insight of what you do for those of us who are joining in to get to appreciate.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Martin. I hope everyone can hear me clearly.
Loud and clear.
Okay. My name is Lewis Munene. I'm, as Martin mentioned, I'm the QA tech lead at Kiosk Digital Services. QA stands for quality assurance. And in the world of software development and software engineering, actually in any world, any field really, you find there are those people who engineer solutions or products, and then there are those people who check them. So I'm in charge of the software engineering part that checks these solutions. Yeah? So that's what we call quality assurance, just checking to see that we've met the quality requirements. My passion is in, of course, tech, IT, developing solutions. That's when we talk about professionally. Yeah. I have we're going to 10 years experience now in the field that I'm currently in. And throughout the course of the 10 years, I've been able to to develop or work with teams that develop a diverse range of solutions, going from payments to logistics, which I'm currently doing now, in distribution. We have ticketing solutions. We've worked with a very broad set of solutions, which have actually been part of the engineering and the QA efforts of those solutions. So in terms of experience and exposure to those fields, I can say I'm very hands-on. I'm also a software developer myself, and so I have a good understanding of the end-to-end process of what goes into developing software, and also coming up with software solutions to customer problems. Thanks, Martin.
All right, thank you so much, Lewis. So I'm interested to know, when you talk about software development, is there what's the career path? Because there are those of us who are joining in and hearing about quality assurance. The question maybe they might be asking is, if I'm doing software development, what is the career path for me to get into quality assurance space? What are the requirements from my technical skills? What are the requirements from soft skills as well? Do I need to be a developer to be a quality assurance person within an organization, or to have such a role within an organization? What would it take?
Okay, well, in quality assurance itself, we have various positions within QA. I'll tell you the different roles of the QA engineers, and I'll also tell you how you get to those roles. So we have QA engineers who are called manual testers. So so anytime you hear me say QA, just know it's a short form for quality assurance. Okay, so these engineers called manual testers, actually the word engineer is not really accurate to describe them, but really what they do is that they manually go through the solution, the steps of your solution, to see that each of those steps does what it's supposed to do. So for example, you have an app that allows you to buy KPLC tokens, for example, or electricity. You pay your electricity bills. So they will go through that app, every step of that app, and ensure that every step works fine. So they do this manually. That's why they're called manual testers. Then you have another category of members of the QA team who do what we call test automation. And so they want to, you look at the areas of testing that you have in your solution, in your app, and then you want to automate the very repetitive tests that you would otherwise do manually, so that subsequently you don't have to keep doing them manually all the time. It saves a lot of your testing time and allows you to do deployments faster. Those engineers, they have different names, but the most common one you will find is what we call software development engineer in test.
Okay.
Above that, you have others who manage these technical members. So we have managers in the QA team. You have technical test analysts who specialize in designing the tests. So in fact, they actually generate the test scripts, both the automated and the manual ones. So we have that in short, but there could be more depending on where you're working and in what field you're in. Now, how to get there, or the knowledge that you need in order to get there. I think it's good to study some theory to understand that testing is a systematic process. So we have courses, of course, that offer that. However, the most important part of this is the experiential or the hands-on knowledge that you gain as you test and as you experience, as you interact with software solutions. So of course, yeah, if you need like a list of courses, I can get that for you, but they are available.
All right. So for those of us who are just joining in, we just started our discussion, and the question that Lewis, who is the lead quality assurance at Kiosk Services, was helping us appreciate is what is the career path of somebody who is getting into quality assurance. So Lewis, what I hear you say is, I need to be exposed to software for me to be a tester.
Correct, correct.
And is there, say I have started a career, I've started my software development journey. I am a software developer and I'm into 6 months, 1 year. Is there a timeline specifically when I can consider transitioning from a developer to a tester? Is there a timeline before which you would say consider being a developer for this period of time before you can consider being a software tester?
Well, that depends on a couple of things. First of all, what kind of testing are you doing? If you're into automation, then moving from a developer to an SDET, a software developer, development engineer in test, it will be very easy. So all you need to do is just get to maybe just have experience in the tools that are used in writing automated tests. For that, the learning curve is not so much for most of these tools. They've tried to simplify as much as possible. In fact, within something like 2 weeks, you can already start writing meaningful tests if you have a coding background. But if you're not a developer, maybe you just have interest in IT, or you know about systems, but you've never developed one, and you want to get into testing. So usually you find where these people start is on manual testing. And even that one doesn't have a big learning curve. I would advise for someone who is completely green, you will need to understand the theory behind it, or the systemic approach to testing. So you could do an online course, or you could study some online material, which would take you about 3 weeks maybe. And then you can begin writing manual tests. And then as you progress with gaining some coding experience, you can transition into the automated tests. So with regards to starting off, the time frame is not so much, not a big learning curve. But when you talk about advancing, because the more you grow and you gain experience, you will discover that quality assurance is actually very difficult. The more you climb up the ladder, the more you interact with systems, then you discover that you need to do deployments much faster. So you want your QA process not to be a bottleneck. So these advanced aspects of testing will take up to years to master properly.
Interesting. Okay, and for those of us who are joining in, please feel free to drop in your questions on chat for any questions that you would like Lewis to answer. Lewis, there is already a question from Innocent. I know Innocent is a student at Technical University. I believe we've interacted with him. He's asking, what is the difference between software development in test and DevSecOps?
Okay.
So please keep those questions coming, and Lewis will be able to respond to those questions. And Lewis, as you're thinking through that, one of the interesting things that I would like you to help us, and we're going to switch from the conversation that we're having already on your journey into quality assurance that you have taken, or anyone else would want to take into quality assurance. But allow me to switch, as you're also thinking through the question from Innocent. Back in the days in campus, by the way, for those of you who are joined in, we went to the same university with Lewis, and Lewis, I would like you to take you back to your days where you are thinking through a course that you're going to take in university. You did have quite a number of options to take. from our discussions previously, and you decided to go for a career in tech, or rather a course in tech. Why specifically did you decide to choose that and not choose any other course, even if you had the grades to pursue those other courses? And has it paid off?
Okay. So I should answer. So these questions which are coming in on chat, we will look at them as we go, right?
Correct. We will come back to them.
Okay. All right. All right. Now, to answer your question, well, that was one of the very difficult decisions I had to make earlier on. So you have the grades, you can qualify for many courses, even those high people view as the high-end courses, if I could use that term. But then you opt for a course whose cutoff point is quite low. I think a degree in IT at the time had a cutoff of C+, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, it almost made me feel like I was like wasting my grade. But well, I can't attribute 100% to myself and my perfect decision-making skills, but really, I had a lot of help and good advisors at my disposal. To mention, I will say my dad was a very influential person when it came to choosing the right course, because he knew me, he knew my tendencies and the kind of things I liked. So he was of great influence to tell me that I shouldn't struggle to want to go for these higher courses if your interests lie on a course that has a lower cutoff point. So in fact, if that's where your interest is, you go for that course. And he encouraged me, and that's why I chose IT.
And that I would assume was not an easy decision to make.
No, it wasn't, because even just to make matters worse, on the day we were getting enrolled in school on the first day in campus, I remember one of the people there saw my grade and she told me, "You are applying for IT, and with this grade," she actually offered to connect me with, I don't know, her friends. And I had to call my dad on that day, and my dad told me, "No, she's giving you that advice as a layman. She has not herself experienced those courses that she's telling you to go for. So why is she advising you to go there?" And so he told me to stick with my course, and that's what I did.
Wow. So with a straight A, you would have easily done medicine, but you chose IT. That was not an easy decision to make. So for those of us who are joining in, and Lewis, there are those of us who are joined in who are currently pursuing a career in tech. Is there a way that they can measure and track whether they are in the right decision? And part of the question that I asked is, has it paid off? Has a career in IT and computing, has it paid off? Sorry about that. So as we wait for Lewis, for those of us who are just coming in, the conversation we're having is we have had an appreciation of what a career as a quality assurance professional does. And Lewis has helped us appreciate that you need to be exposed to software for you to think about testing. There's a bit of skills that you can do. And we're just getting to appreciate how the career journey that Lewis has had. So Lewis, how has it been? Has it paid off? And how has that journey been transitioning now from school into what you're doing into QA years after being a software developer?
Yeah, first of all, sorry, I think my network dropped off for a moment there. I may have missed something that you said. But I've had your last question, how my transition has been. How has it been, transitioning from school all the way up to where I am now?
Correct.
And well, it's been quite a challenge. It's been interesting because I didn't start off in QA. In fact, when I when I did my internship, I was taught as a developer, and I was taught using C programming language, which many people shy away from, possibly because of the difficulties in it. So when I went back to school and I finished my course and came out of school, I got a job immediately. In fact, my boss didn't even want me to go for a 2-week break immediately after I left school. So when I started working, I started as a programmer, a developer, writing code C and C++, actually just C. And as we progressed, and a few years down the line, so that was in 2013, come to mid 2014 is when I discovered that there was a huge gap in where I was working. The huge gap was in quality assurance. You see, things were moving so fast. The customers were coming in with their requirements and they were being deployed so fast. And I discovered there was a missing link somewhere. No one was testing these solutions. So if there was an issue in production, we would discover it when it's too late and it would be a crisis. So out of that, it just raised an interest in me to look into software testing, because I remember it was one of the course units we did in campus. I think in 3rd year, somewhere there was a course unit that dealt with software testing. So I remember that was actually a field in software engineering. So I enrolled because I was completely green. I didn't know much about it. I enrolled for what is called ISTQB. It's a course that is offered for software testing. It's offered in Kenya. It's an international thing. I enrolled for it. I studied for 3 weeks. I did the exam. I passed very well. And then with those skills I got from that course, I actually came and started doing some testing. And my boss at the time also, he was actually interested in testing himself. It's just that he was too busy. And he noticed that I've done that. So he gave me the task of setting up a QA team or a testing team in the organization. So that's how it started. And all through the years, it's been a combination of both dev and QA, dev and testing, juggling between those two, because in fact, even when you look at my CV, you will find half of it is QA, half of it is dev. Yeah, so that I mean that's just my specialty. So now advancing, fast forwarding to where I am now, in fact, I can say that the last 3 years have been the most educative years for me with regards to quality assurance. I've come to work with tools I hadn't before. I've come to work with aspects of testing that I hadn't even thought about before. So you keep learning, you keep growing. When I was doing that course, one of the points that we had there, the principles of a QA professional, is that you have to engage in lifelong learning. You have to learn continually. They call it lifelong learning. Yeah.
Okay. So is it not too tasking to be a lifelong learner? I thought there should be an end to learning.
Well, there's no end to learning. There is no end to learning, studying, and making of books. So the thing is, it's not really tasking, because the need for it is what creates that urge to want to learn and to know. So like, for example, you have a problem at hand, you want to solve it. The only way you can solve that problem is by equipping yourself with the skills that are required to solve it. So you have to learn. There is no shortcut. You cannot solve that problem before you gather these skills that are required to get there. So it's not really tasking, it's just necessary. And if you are really not lazy, if I could use that word, then it even becomes enjoyable, because sometimes you have to read, you have to push yourself, burn the midnight oil sometimes, trying to understand some very difficult concepts. Yes, so it's necessary.
Wow. All right. That's very insightful, Lewis. So, so far, my takeaways from what you're sharing is that there is a lot of need to learn, gain knowledge in your field. Question I have for you is, for the time that I have known you, you seem to be a very fast learner. I know you're into music as well, and sorry for putting you in the spot, but I watched you learn the piano from day one, from scratch. And so is there anything, and I'm asking this for those of us who are professionals in the field, and we are learning new skills that need to help us to do what we are doing better. I'm a cybersecurity professional. There are those of us who are joining in from different professionals in tech. Those of us who are also in school, who are looking to graduate. Looking at those two fields, is there something that we need to do to enhance how quick we translate knowledge into understanding and make it easy for us to understand hard concepts? Because I've seen that in your journey. What can you share around that?
Okay, it's good that you mentioned the piano example. I mentioned that learning is brought about by need. You need to equip yourself so that you can do so this and that, right? Solve a problem maybe. So just to highlight on that piano example, I was a music director at the time, and I didn't know how to play piano, and I was a music director. So you wonder how am I a music director without being authoritative with regards to music. So that in itself, just that setup, it brought the urge in me to want to learn at least some music theory and to learn to play an instrument. And that's why I spent the whole holiday of, I think, the second year teaching myself piano. I actually downloaded material. Thank God I had a piano I could practice with. And by the time we came back to the next semester, I was already playing. So the need to solve that problem, it really drives you to gather the requisite knowledge. Yeah, so just repeat the last part of that question again so that we don't lose the conversation.
No, I think you've really answered the question, because the question was around how is there anything that you are doing or you have done that we can learn from in the journey of us quickly learning, because there are too many things. There is too much knowledge that we need. Some of us are learning new software development languages. Some of us are learning new tech skills. Some of us need a promotion. Is there a skill to learning and obtaining knowledge?
Okay. Yeah, so the fact that you're not just learning for the sake of it, just to know, you know, that the human brain is a very complex thing. You can just fool yourself into telling yourself that, okay, what I'm doing is important. And really, you're not applying it anywhere. So somehow you will know, and you will lose interest. But if there is a drive, if there is something that's driving you towards learning or getting that new skill that you're getting, you will get there. So for the most part, it's actually kind of innate, because it comes out of you. Maybe what people call grit or passion, if I could use those terms, it comes out of you. But as for how to make it work, if maybe you already know the path you're on and you want to gather the skills required for that path, the advice I would give is that you have to get hands-on. You have to practice whatever you're learning. So if you're learning a new programming language, for example, you have to practice it. You have to apply it to solve a problem. That's the only way it will be rewarding for you. And that's the only way you'll keep going. So you have to get hands-on on whatever it is you're learning, so that it can you can get those skills, so that it can make sense to you, and so that you don't lose interest in that thing.
Okay. So if I'm learning a new programming skill, for example, I not only need to watch a video or read a book, but I need to look for a way I can practice it.
Sure. You definitely, you have to get hands-on, practice it, make something with it, or make something of it.
Okay. So allow me to diverge a bit. In the area of programming and software development, some of us are delusional from the word go, from first year, that software development is quite a difficult subject. And there are those who drop off and decide to choose a different path. Is first year, for example, or is there a too early stage for you to begin practicing software development, for example?
Okay. Well, there's no timeline to it. In fact, nowadays I'm even seeing children are getting introduced to software development. So as soon as you can understand the logical aspects of how to solve a problem. So really, maybe a misconception that is there is that software development is only about coding. You code, you write code, and then that's it. So the better of a coder you are, the more successful you become. But no, it's in two parts. A career like software development comes in two parts. Number one, you need to understand how to solve problems, as in logically thinking through a problem, from problem to solution. How do we come up with a solution to this problem? Okay, so that's where you start from. That's the first aspect of software development. You need to understand the logic of how you move from point A to point B, point A being the problem, point B being the solution. And then the second aspect of software development is technical skill to move from point A to point B. So now that means having a good handle of writing Java code, for example. If you have these two aspects combined, then you become a very valuable engineer. If you only have one of the aspects, for example, if you can only code, but you're not good at designing solutions, but maybe you're very good at writing code. I don't know how that can be, but possibly there's someone who is like that. Yeah, you can still succeed, but you won't realize your full potential, because you will only be receiving instructions, design like this, design like this, design like this, but you'll never be able to give input on, no, we can do this in a better way. So you won't be valuable in that aspect. If you're good at designing solutions, but you don't know how to code, then you will need people who know how to code so that they can help you. So we have both kinds of people, it's true. And we have those people who have a combination of both. I think that's better. But yeah, I think you need to, in terms of equipping yourself, the technical skill part is what you can work on. For this other one is more of generally, how do you perceive the world? How do you understand things? Which I'm not very sure if there's a straightforward way to grow that aspect of you, apart from just interacting with, exposing yourself to different solutions, seeing how people have done things, then you can grow yourself in that capacity.
Very interesting insights, Lewis, there. And I don't think it's specifically only applying to software development, but I think our educational system has not prepared us to think through problems and solutions. Just recently, as ChatGPT was going live, the very first versions, there was an outcry that a lot of developers in Kenya, in other regions, were used to develop, but the pay was too little. So I don't know whether there is, from your experience, is there a way to mentor or to grow your ability to not only develop, where you actually write code, but also to think through solutions and come up with actual solutions And I think that is also a thin line between, or it's also another transition point from actual coding to the area of entrepreneurship as well, where you are now looking at problems and you are able to say, okay, we have a problem. How can we come up with a solution in terms of a system that can fill in this problem? So the question here is there a way that if I'm in school, how can I grow both my techie skills and grow my thinking through a problem?
Now, I mentioned that in order to first grow your problem-solving skills, and that, as you say, is applicable in every place, everywhere. Possibly, you will need to expose yourself to different. Just go out there and see what people are doing. Understand how some people have come up with solutions to different problems. Then at least it will build up your creativity and curiosity. Maybe then in that way you can be able to grow yourself in that aspect, logically breaking down a problem into small steps and then designing a solution for it. To grow yourself as a developer, again, I will go back to my point for if you have a gap for something, that gap creates a need and an urge to equip yourself in order to jump across that gap. So if you want to become a better coder, for example, a better software tester or whatever engineer you want to become, you have to place yourself in positions where you are required either to build solutions with some supervision, or you're required to deliver a good quality solutions as a tester and then deploy it to a customer. You have to be there. So you have to either work on a project that's being used in production and not just doing something as a hobby. If you do something as a hobby, you will lose sight of why you're doing it. And the urge to keep improving yourself will not be there. It will fade off. And that applies to every aspect of life, even in music, I will say. I could talk about that for another hour. So if you're in some place and people are counting on you to deliver a solution and you are the only programmer, maybe you're working on a module in that software, you will make sure that it goes out there, meaning you will equip yourself, meaning you will learn whatever skills are required to get there. So, but my point is, we need a gap, and then we need to fill that gap by equipping ourselves with the skills that are required to fill that gap. If any of those two prerequisites are lacking, then you won't grow. You will not be able to grow. So the gap I'm talking about is, for example, people need your solution. It needs to be used by someone out there on the ground. That's a gap. You need to solve a problem out there. That's a gap. Or maybe at your workplace, you've been tasked with coming up with maybe research on which software quality assurance tool we can use to solve this problem. That's a gap. If you don't have a gap, then you will not have the urge to feed yourself with skills to jump that gap. I hope you get my point. So that applies. It's a general principle that applies if you want to become a better software tester, better programmer, anything. You need to be hands-on on a project that is being used somewhere or that will be used somewhere, or maybe has the prospects of being used somewhere. You have to be involved. Martin, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Huh?
Sorry about that. So what I hear you say is, I think there's only, and this is irrespective of the career that we are in tech, there's only too much that we can learn in school. But there is a lot of exposure that we need in our tech careers, whether in software development, whether you're a front-end developer, you're a back-end developer, you're into data analytics, you're into machine learning and AI, you're into cybersecurity. I think all of us who are joined in, the insights that Lewis is sharing is that there's a lot of exposure that we need to the real world problems. So the next time you're given a task and you're asked, go and come up with a module, take some time and think through what is that module trying to solve. What gap does it fill in terms of the bigger picture of the entire system? For those of us who are joined in, Lewis, there are those of us who are joined in who are into the cybersecurity space. I actually saw a question in chat, and if you allow me to respond to that. Liz Opar asked a question: as a pen tester, do you need blue team, purple team, or red team skills? Please feel free to keep those questions coming. I know today's webinar is a special webinar because we are doing a mix of different tech skills. So keep those questions coming, whether they are from a software development side, from a QA quality assurance side, from a cybersecurity side. And we'll get to answer them. We're just short of 15 minutes before we wind up this webinar. So Liz, to answer your question, Lewis is a quality assurance professional, which means that there's a bit of a twist there into penetration testing. Penetration testing has a bias to security. And to answer your question, as a penetration tester, you will be more into the attack side of things. So if you are planning to be a pen tester, you will not necessarily be in the blue team or the purple team, but you'll be in the red team. So if that's a career path that you want to pursue, you need to hone your red teaming. In short, you'll be working as part of a red team. If you want to, most very good blue teamers have had some exposure to the red team side of things. A blue team are the defenders. So if that's a space, that a path that you want to take, if you want to become a SOC analyst, for example, it means that you'll be helping an organization defend its systems from attackers. So you also need to spend some time understanding what attackers do, and maybe you might want to spend some time doing some pen tests and then transition into SOC, or maybe it might be the vice versa. I have some colleagues of mine who have started their journey from a SOC side and then transition into the pen test side. And sometimes you find people who are in the pen test and then transition to the SOC, or they do both. So that is to respond to the question from Liz. Lewis, I would request that you help us think through or respond to the question from Innocent. There was a question on the difference between software development in test. I'm assuming that is software development testing and DevSecOps. There is also a question from Michael Kimita, who is asking, as a QA engineer, how do you ensure that AI systems remain compliant with legal and ethical standards? Very good question. During the QA process. Also, what methodologies or frameworks are commonly used in QA for cybersecurity? Lastly, which resources would you recommend for someone who would like to venture into QA? So Lewis, I think we can start with the difference between software development into the testing space and DevSecOps.
Okay. So SDET, software development engineer in tests. This is rightly called an engineer because they actually develop code that automates manual testing processes. So basically, this is someone who writes automated tests. So that we look at what we do, the testing that we do manually in the company, and then they will select an appropriate tool, write those tests within that tool, and have that tool do the tests for them. So we have different tools and libraries for this. We have Concept, Playwright, we have Selenium, and many others that you could mention. So that's a software development engineering test. DevSecOps is is a very broad concept. Actually, it's not really, I don't think it's right to say that a particular person does DevOps or DevSecOps, because it's a concept that cuts across the entire spectrum of software engineering. From development, we have all the agile processes that come from getting the problem at hand, designing solutions from it, breaking down the problem, coming up with solutions, so writing user stories for it, and then actually writing code and planning the testing work. So you have the dev aspect, and then security aspects will also come in place. And then the operations and delivering of solutions to the client, and that is the delivery aspect will come in place. So this is a very broad aspect of software engineering that cuts across all forms of developers in the software development journey. So okay. Yeah, I know some people say that they are DevOps engineers. They could say that because I think they say that because they deal with the delivery part of the process. So that is CI/CD. I know you say continuous delivery. So you call yourself a DevOps engineer. Other people call themselves DevOps engineers because they deal with infrastructure. We have the maintenance of servers and configuring the different pods that are going to be running these software applications. But that's not very accurate because it should be like a philosophy that cuts across the whole spectrum of software engineering. But the SDET one that you asked at first, that's very specific to QA, and it deals with automating manual tests.
Right. Okay. Lewis, there's another question on AI. What are we doing around doing testing for systems and ensuring that they are compliant to legal and ethical standards?
Well, yeah, this is a very complicated question because AI systems, well, they're not new. They've been there for a very long time. It's just that of late, we are seeing more of them in the news and in our social media platforms. And we now have ChatGPT, and people are wondering where all this is taking us. And we have the giants competing against each other. So the question of ethics when it comes to AI is a very complicated thing to deal with. Currently there is no clear-cut ethical standard for AI. You cannot say, because at the end of the day, people want to solve problems and to improve people's lives, right? But in the process, we come up with solutions that either do that too well or have implications that could be, that could maybe creep into aspects of human life that we're even afraid of even thinking about. So when you talk about standards in AI, there is no authoritative figure at the moment.
So we're not there yet.
This is right and this is wrong. Yes.
I see. All right.
But how you join that with QA, I think you would have to, even this one is difficult because AI systems are very dynamic. They learn the more they consume data, they learn, they know more about the subject matter. So even the scope of testing now becomes exponential. Again, these are very new fields which have not been properly ventured into. So you will not have a book or a standard that tells you this is how you do QA for an AI system. So far, these are still things which are growing.
I know AI in its own is a topic that we can spend another 1 or 2 hours in. So I'll not dwell on that, but thanks for that feedback, Lewis. There is a question, Lewis, on resources that you can recommend to somebody who wants to start a career in QA I will ask that you type that on chat if you can. There's some tools that you've already mentioned during your conversations. But I want to, we have 5 or so minutes left. There's a question from Abdullahi Mohammed that I think is very relevant. His question is, I just graduated as a full stack developer. His question is, how can he apply the knowledge that he has in the real world? And I think that is related, Lewis, if you can also combine that with a question, somebody, I think that's an area Cisco, who is asking on the entry level, do you choose building a career or financial stability first? And I'm assuming that's somebody who doesn't have a job yet, but he's asking, okay, do I sustain myself? If you can combine that with a question on how do you apply what you know in the real world?
Yeah, so congrats for making it this far up to there. You're a full stack dev. It would be an interesting conversation on how you define full stack, but maybe we can have that for another day. So, however, your question is how you can apply that knowledge in the real world. As we were discussing, I mentioned that if you have a gap to fill or a problem to solve, then you will equip yourself with whatever skills you have to solve that problem. The only way you can apply this knowledge is if you can get a problem you can solve, either by working in some place that is developing a certain solution, or by thinking of an existing problem that you can design a solution for. I know it's not as easy as someone could put it, but really that's the only way you can apply the knowledge you have. There are other ways to do that, but I don't know if that would make any sense. There are people who contribute to open source solutions. Like you have very well-known libraries and you have people who actually contribute to them. So they're not gaining any financial benefit from that, but they're solving a problem. That's another way you can view it if you're there, if that's the direction you would like to take. But yeah, you just need some place where your skill can materialize into something that can help someone out there. So either by finding a job or coming up with a solution to a certain problem, design an application for it, or getting into research, even contributing to open source projects. So all that's a possibility.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Lewis. And I know we haven't had a chance to answer all the questions, but I hope for all of us who have joined in today, this was an insightful session for you. Lewis, what will be your parting shots, your final comments to those of us who are joined in terms of becoming very good at what we are doing, whether from in whichever career field that we are in the tech space?
Yeah, I would say this, for anyone who is working anywhere, make yourself so valuable that you're the first thing that comes into mind when someone needs to solve a problem in your field. Like in your workplace, or wherever you're doing anything, make yourself so valuable there that even you taking a day off would be unimaginable for people. I hope you get what I mean. I mean, you become so good at what you do, and you think through the whole thing end to end, as in, is what I'm doing really going to make the life of someone out there better? Or do you just write code just so that you can meet the deadlines and it can get off your desk? If you have the end-to-end perspective of it, then you'll be able to actually solve problems. And in fact, that in itself will drive you and push you forward in your career. Sorry, Martin, I just have to answer this question very briefly. On someone called Cisco asked about entry level and choosing between career and financial stability. This is a real concern. For entry level, I would advise, of course, you need some money to get by. So you might want to look for an internship or a job in the field that you're interested in. Just build your financial muscle so that that can kickstart you off. Because even with that, improve yourself in other ways. So yeah, when you have the financial stability, again, financial stability also drives you to become better in your career. So they're not mutually exclusive. Yeah, but if you're starting, of course, you want to get by.
All right. Thank you very much, Lewis, for that. For those of us who are joined in, and Lewis, if you can share your contact, if you don't mind, on chat for those of us who want to reach out to you without on maybe email or your contact on phone. But thank you very much for sharing your insights. I hope those of us who are joined in, I hope this was helpful. And as a parting shot, what was my takeaways from this session is that we really need to become good at what we are doing. And as we are, as techies, we sort of think of the tools and how we can use those tools. So as we are doing that, one of the takeaways from Lewis was, can we also think through the problems we are solving? When you go back to work tomorrow, or you're looking for a job, can you think about the problem you want to solve with the knowledge you already have? Otherwise, thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Lewis has shared his LinkedIn and his email address. If you have any further questions that you would like to ask him, please feel free to reach out to him and ask any follow-up questions. As we do every month, we do have our monthly cybersecurity webinar, and we will be excited to have you join us for next month. For all of you who are joined in from Kenya and everywhere from Southern Africa as well, we are very grateful for you making time to join us. And thank you, Lewis, for making time to walk us through this insightful session today.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.